So during planned protests in DC over the weekend, President Trump supporters quickly shifted from their objective of complaining about his election loss to attacking counter protesters and scribbling obscenities on their butts. And we may not see that part, but they did do it. Let's go straight into the graphics about what happened this weekend. Authorities in Washington, DC said that on Sunday, they had arrested a man in connection with the stabbing of 4 people on Saturday night as supporters and opponents of President Trump clashed blocks from the White House. They continued. The 4 were stabbed outside a bar at 11th and F Streets Northwest around 9 on Saturday. The police said Washington resident Philip Johnson, who's 29 years old, was arrested and charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, said the police spokesperson. And they said he used a knife. Lastly, the confrontation occurred after dozens of supporters of Mr. Trump, many of whom appeared to be members of the Proud Boys, gathered on the street outside of Harry's bar. Some of the Trump supporters shouted and pointed at a black man in dark clothes who was alone and standing against a wall. This is according to a journalist who witnessed the confrontation. So this was also, the video of this was posted of the man standing there, and then we're running this underneath us because there was constant obscenities being thrown at him. Get out of here! What are you doing here? So at this point, there's the guy, and then his mask is. They're trying to snatch his mask off his head. Before this, for a quick second, you can see him show the knife he had in his hand, and then after the snatching happened, the confrontation went down. He was knocked down a few times, kicked, punched, was able to get back up. Then they chased him down again as all this is happening. Again, screaming more obscenities, F Antifa, all these normal things that they would be saying. And eventually, as you'll see, as this comes to a climax, as they're crowding over him, a police officer jumps in. There he is in front of your screen, trying to break up what's going on. Insinuates that he's gonna spray someone with pepper spray, but I don't think it really went. And then the fight continues, and eventually he breaks it up. He was the suspect, I think, was Mr. Johnson, was bruised, battered, bloodied, and they did arrest him. And they're not sure what happened after that, if he's posted bail or if he has an attorney or any of that. But they did say 4 people in that instance were stabbed in that altercation, and then the flames and fury just exploded from there. So this is what we're getting in the middle of DC streets. While again, I'm not sure what President Trump has been saying regarding this, or if he's proud of the Proud Boys, or if he's proud of this fight that's happened, or even of some of these other members that decide to show up with knives, and then we're in the middle of a fight, in the middle of the street. This is what we've devolved to, because we can't just have a simple election where we see things happen and then we accept the results.
Yeah, so this story has a couple of different components. First of all, don't bring any weapons to any protest. Don't do it if you're right wing, don't do it if you're left wing. And I think that having the knife there made it worse. Now, having said that, this is the clearest case of self-defense that has ever been presented. And I'm sure the people who gave $2 million to get Kyle Rittenhouse out on bail are busily giving the same amount of money to Mr. Johnson. And they're saying, well, that's clearly self-defense. Look, they're hitting him, pulling on him, pushing him, etc. And then they got him down. And I mean, if you were in the middle of that crowd and they're kicking and punching you like that, wouldn't you be afraid for your life? If you're a right winger and you had a gun, you'd shoot every single one of them, and you know it. No, there's not a single person who would argue with that. You know that, right? You know that you would shoot him. Now, in his case, he had a knife, so he defended himself with his knife. I don't think he should have brought it. I don't think it helped, but every report is clear. First, they pushed him, then he pulled out the knife to defend himself, and then you saw what they were doing. By the way, cops, you were right there. We saw you at the end of the tape, and they're all politely asking. The guys get stomped on and has a knife. Everybody's in danger, right? Get in there quicker. This is the one time we would like you to get in there quicker before they have the guy. What if they'd stomp his skull, right? And he dies there, right there on the spot. You're gonna let them mob him and try to lynch him first? No, okay. And so for folks who said Rittenhouse was self-defense, when Rittenhouse brought a much more serious weapon and started the fight, shot and killed people before anyone tried to take his weapon away. In this case, there's no question the Proud Boys start the fight, and then they gang up on him, and he's in clear mortal danger at that point. If you don't think this is self-defense, you're a liar.
Yeah, as this continued on throughout the weekend, there was police officers that were injured, throughout the protest. There was both Proud Boys and folks from opposing sides that were angry at the police at different moments. So the police found themselves circling this whole area for the weekend or for the evening, trying to break up fights, not break up fights, politely kind of nudge to not break up that fight, worry about their own safety. Some of them got assaulted as well. So again, where's the thin blue line, folks? Because those flags must have been out there at the time. So when the thin blue line comes in and says, hey, chill out with the violence, then you attack them. Where's the logic in that? Again, it has nothing to do with anything that they say they believe in. There's no principles, there's no real objective to the things that are putting people on different moral high grounds. In reality, what they're out there to do is start trouble. Now, again, it's not one-sided. There's lots of folks out there to start trouble. You know why? Because we're in the middle of this whole clash of people that we're deciding, hey, I'm living in this fantasy land, and until you let me take over with my fanatical reasons for why Trump should stay in office, you should be afraid of me. There's a certain percentage of Americans that are going, no, not today. And I think that's a bad decision. But we're all Americans. We've been teaching our kids since they were born, hey, you're the best person in the world. You deserve to walk around with your gun and shoot someone who disagrees with you or attack them if you're angry. We're angry people right now. And you think that these folks didn't come out here with shields, bulletproof vests, lighter fluid? You think they came out there to peacefully protest? No, people from both sides did not come out there to peacefully protest. Some did, but when you get these clashes and someone's sitting there face to face, this is where we stand now. And you can't be surprised that someone is gonna come out there and try to actually engage in these fights that keep getting talked about, and people are antsy and itching from their pants to do so. The fights are gonna happen somewhere, and some kind of higher leadership needs to talk to these folks and try and bring them down, because what else is going to?
Okay, so let me give you guys a juxtaposition because Jayar reminded me of it. So here, I watched the whole tape. The cops are incredibly polite to the Proud Boys as they're in the middle of beating someone potentially to death. And they hear there's a knife, they clearly hear it, but they don't know who has the knife at that point. So for all they know, it's the guys that are beating him down and shivving him right there on the spot. And they're like, guys, could you please move? Could you please move? Jacob Blake was going into his car with his 3 kids in it, and they thought the car might have a knife, and cops shot him in the back 7 times. Now you got white fascists that are beating down a black guy, and all of a sudden the cops are super polite. They're the politest I've ever seen them. Oh, you're about to kill someone. Oh, could you please move? I might or might not use my pepper spray, only a little bit. I don't want to offend right-wing fascists. Oh, if you were black, I'd shoot all of you in the back. So let's, because it happened, it already happened. This is not a hypothetical. So do not let these fascists run in the streets. You want to protest, great. You want to do violence, they should all be arrested.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.